In this short video, we're going to be talking about movement. A lot of people underestimate the importance of movement when they're doing their driving assessment. So we're going to cover a few aspects that are really important to remember. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about it, stay tuned. When it comes to movement when you drive in a motor vehicle, the number one thing is that you've got to make sure that you're moving in the right direction. If you intend to move forward, you've got to be in the correct gear. And if you intend to move backwards, obviously you've got to be in reverse. So a lot of times people out of nervousness mix the two. And for example, if they've just parked in the car park, and they intend to leave as per the instructions of the assessor, and they simply forget to change to first gear if it's a manual transmission, or to drive if it's an auto. So they would leave it in the reverse gear. They would do all the necessary steps, mirrors indicating movement, but instead of moving forward they would move backwards, or vice versa. This is really important to understand, just to ensure that error is just something that they cannot forgive. If you're at the traffic lights and if your car moves backwards accidentally, what's the tolerance? Do they allow any sort of movement at all? They do. It's generally around school ruler's length, which is about 30 centimeters. It's really difficult to judge. If somebody's moved 30 centimeters, they probably wouldn't even feel that they've moved so much. But if they keep rolling backwards, it's definitely more than the school ruler's length, which is what we usually teach. So just try to be very accurate, and it's really important. So in brief, movements assessed, how smoothly or how erratically you move forward, backwards, or when you turn corners. One of the things that come under the movement section would be your speed. Any candidate who exceeds the speed limit will fail their driving test immediately. There is allowance of 5 kilometers an hour, but you've got to be aware that it's very difficult to judge, because it's best to be within the speed limit. So they're not going to be strict and fail if it goes literally just a millimeter above the speed gauge, whatever the speed limit it is. But you got to do your best that you keep it within the speed limit. We also get questions by prospective clients and driving test candidates whether they can drive slowly most of the times to avoid going over the speed limit. So look, it's not recommended to go like 10 or 5 kilometers under the speed limit the whole time. And it would come under flow, which we will talk about in the next video, which we believe is the most important thing of all, because the highest number of people still fail for flow. That's where it shows if you are underprepared or well prepared. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk extensively in the next video. Now, your stopping must be smooth. If you intended to stop before the stop line, or parking on the side of the street, and you obviously try not to block any driveway. So it's really important that you do it smoothly, and that you do it in time. Timing plays an extraordinary role in correct movement in the driving assessment. Now, the following distance is absolutely necessary to understand. Our following distance must be adequate. We can't be too close to the vehicle in front of us. Now, also, we've got to adjust our speed if the vehicle in front of you is slowing down, and the timing must be accurate. So you can't really wait until it's too late, particularly if we are doing, say, in anything above 50 kilometers an hour. Any speed above 50 kilometers an hour can kill you. High speed maneuvers are considered to be above 50 kilometers an hour. So if you're cruising down the road, you should not be less than 2 seconds behind the vehicle that's in front of you. So that's a minimum. So we always say drive to the conditions. If it's raining heavily, and if the visibility isn't that great, and if obviously the road's a little bit more slippery, if your reaction time can be impaired for any reason, you've got to really drive to the conditions. And we allow people to practice on this particular aspect so much, because it's so important. That is where serious accidents happen. So when you're driving on the main street, let alone 100 kilometers plus, that's the most threatening environment for modern human beings. We don't have bears and dinosaurs out there anymore, but we definitely are at risk when we're driving 100 kilometers an hour on a freeway. If you don't have your following distance spot on, you might be in trouble very easily and very quickly. But like I said in the last video, we're going to cover the following distance, the 2 seconds rule, extensively in one of the coming videos. During the low speed exercises such as stopping for shopping, your movement must be accurate, because the assessor will definitely put you under microscope when you're doing low speed maneuvers. Just an example, when you're parking forward into a car bay, you've got to make sure you stop smoothly before you touch or hit the curb in front of you. It's really something that we've got to understand. Any erratic movement, particularly at low speed maneuvers, can mean that the candidate is underprepared. So you've got to understand that you've got to do a lot of practice on low speed maneuvers when it comes to movement, but also you've got to understand that, practicing high speed maneuvers in your following distance is crucially important. So, we encourage you to practice with your private supervisors and driving instructors as much as you possibly can, and in as many situations as possible. One of the other things that people get wrong is they overshoot the traffic lights line or a stop line. So it's extremely important not to overshoot the traffic lights, because that would represent an immediate fail. Also, where there's a stop sign, you've got to make sure you don't overshoot. In saying that, make sure you don't stay too far from the line, because then your visibility will be impaired. You're not going to be able to see what's coming and what's not coming. In conclusion, just try not to do things too fast or too slow. Any changes you've got to anticipate well, and clearly you've got to adjust your speed and obviously the course of your movement. Make sure you don't leave it in the wrong gear, and also make sure you don't overshoot the lines and undershoot them either, because that would clearly show to the assessor that you are underprepared and you need more work. Best advice that we can give you: don't even book your driving assessment until somebody assesses that you can pass. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.